let's look at the globe for a bit. Let's zoom out for a bit, because circular economy is about closing loops, but often is seen from the perspective of my airport or my region or my country. But actually, if we really want to achieve not only the European ambition for 2050, but beyond, we have to take this kind of like global approach and look at it from collaboration across borders. So I'm very excited to see so many airports here today and see how we can learn from each other and not make the same mistakes and learn, transition faster. So the three stories of this morning will all talk about circularity. That's what we know by now, but it's more or less spread upon two different streams. Operational streams, really the waste or resources coming from the terminal, where passengers also are involved, and the infrastructure, so the construction related streams. So it's good to kind of like see that this is a way of looking at resources that is very recognizable across airports. And knowing now what the resources are, also good to look at the strategies of dealing with the resources. So maybe most of you know this R strategies, or you know a shorter version, because we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Rs. But the concept is that we're moving from left below to a linear way of working with those resources, burning for energy or low, well, basically recycling, but often downcycling because the quality decreases. We're gonna look more upwards, more up towards more circular solution. And this is also the framework to use to connect the storylines of these three airports.
Good morning. And then you heard Sibrin talking about tracking and KPIs. And that's exactly the topic I would like to focus on. I would like to walk you through our operational residual stream dashboard. This tool, similar to the control tower, gives us an overview into our streams. And based on that, we are fine-tuning our zero waste strategies. We have a circular economy chapter based on the sustainability roadmap. We want to be zero waste by 2030 and circular by 2050. In the last years, we've been very busy building a monitoring system that will help us towards these goals. 2024 marked a very important year for us, but probably for you too. Maybe you remember 2024 because your papa became the most streamed song in YouTube, but also in Spotify. If you're more into sports, soccer, maybe you remember that Spain became the European Championship and they won against the UK. Already. But for us, 2024 was the year of the dashboard. We've been working in this tool since long ago, but it was until we moved from a waste handler into a material flow management contract. Now we are working with a consortium of renewing and silos. We plugged in circularity principles in this new way of working. We also included data. We wanted to know what was going on with our streams so we could better fine-tune our strategies. And since April last year, we have this dashboard up and running. We knew our KPIs because the goals were set long ago to be zero waste, but we were missing a tool to properly monitor them. And also we were missing some data such as CO2. So that was solved with the dashboard. We have 5 different sections. First of all, we start with the most important ones, with the KPIs. This is exactly why we want to be zero waste. To give you a couple of examples, we want to separate at the source. How much is being separated that eventually could be recycled? Another KPI is the waste per passenger. We are around 180 grams per passenger. We want to lower these numbers. We are also very transparent because these are the indicators that you can read in our annual report. Second section of the dashboard is the waste details. So the KPIs, they are very broad. It's very difficult to take action based on that. So we have to go 1 or 2 levels deeper. For instance, we know that the terminal is the main polluter. If we look at the areas, 70% of the waste and the CO2, more or less, comes from the terminal. Here we are prioritizing. We have several projects ongoing. A particular one, probably very common among airports, is the garbage bin. This is quite an issue for us. So short term, we are testing how to nudge the passengers maybe with signs to help them separate better. Mid-term, probably we're going to have smart bins, so we automate a little bit more the separation. We can also slide the data based on the residual streams. We have priority streams, so the bad ones. Residual waste, more or less 50% of the weight comes from here. We are working, first of all, we are carrying out a waste audit so we know what goes in this gray bin. We know that around 70% should not be in this bin. So that gives us already an area to improve because some products should not end up here. Maybe they could be recycled or they should be reduced. An example is we have a working group with the food and beverage partners to discuss exactly those topics. Cabin waste, category 1, the international kitchen waste that is being incinerated. We are drafting a pilot right now with a cleaning company and with an airline to identify EU, European versus non-European waste, because for European waste, there are more chances for recycling. Last chart, and this is the favorite of Taco, my manager. This is the Sankey diagram. First of all, it's beautiful. It's just too nice to look at it. It's super colorful. Second, it has very important information. It shows exactly the flow, the materials, of how much you are getting, how much you are separating, and how much you are recycling or not. So here, you can communicate your efforts using this chart. Highly recommend. If we move to the third section of the dashboard, is the R ladder. Annie already walked also through the different levels. Here as well, we can measure where we are. Unfortunately, we are pretty at the bottom, but we have a couple of success cases. This dashboard is for streams, so we have lost already the materials once we can measure here. Nevertheless, orange bills, we are collecting them separately and they have moved from recover to recycle. Similarly, we are collecting now coffee grounds and we want to upcycle those. So maybe in a couple of months, coffee grounds have earned their own status here, and we will see them as recycled as well. The last section, very important, especially for sustainability, CO2. If you work in sustainability, you know this is the most used indicator to reflect environmental impact. For waste, that is not the exception. And thanks to this material flow management contract, we have mapped all the streams against the end-of-life possibilities. So we know, including the transportation, how much CO2 they are emitting. This comes very handy also for compliance. And if you have to do the airport carbon accreditation, the ACA, well, the data is pretty easy to pull from here. So we have a very comprehensive dashboard, but we know if we twist it a little bit, we can even maximize its use. And this is what we are doing. So if we add a couple of inches of CSRD, basically the 10 pages that talk about waste, ESRS E5, waste. We have, we have ESRS E5 waste indicator dashboard. So we can see here the split between hazardous and non-hazardous, and then the different recovery treatments and the summary of the stream. So for compliance, this works very well. If we change the formula, we go back to the basics, but we add a level deeper and we focus on the cabin waste. So this is more or less 20% of the residuals. Then we have a dashboard for the airlines. This is still under construction because we need to coordinate with the cleaning companies and the airlines to get at this level, but this is ongoing. We believe, similar to us, that the airlines can also benefit knowing what's going on with their streams, because then they can also fine-tune their strategies. The last version I want to show is regarding construction. This comes from a completely different data set. Nevertheless, given that we have the contract, this also includes the small renovation projects in the terminal. So for those, you wouldn't believe it, but we also have a dashboard. For this one, even though it's relatively small, we can keep track of several KPIs, and we're using this experience to think how we can scale it up for the rest of the construction that takes place at Schiphol. Now, two highlights I would like to conclude. If you're going through something similar, please keep the focus. You want to be zero waste. You don't want to launch a dashboard. Probably you need other tools to complement the work towards your goal. So don't forget that. The dashboard is just a tool, a thermometer that will tell you the temperature, but will not give you insights of what to do. So nice to have the data, better if you can use it. The second insight, you have to be agile. Circular economy is just starting, is transitioning, there are no standards. There is a lot to be learned from each other. So you have to be flexible on the tools that you develop in order to keep the focus. Also, compliance, you have to keep that in mind because it adds complexity. Sometimes it feels one step forward, three steps backward. Nevertheless, for ESG and for circularity is here to stay. We already know the big trends. This is just growing, so you have to keep that in mind. Remember that you also are part of a chain. The strength of the chain depends on every single partner. So if you work together, you can definitely achieve a higher goal. And for us, 2025 is looking more and more circular. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. So today, I just wanted to share some insights from some recent work we've done on our compositional analysis. We've done a few over the years, and we completed one at the end of 2024. But I suppose it's been really useful for us in terms of understanding the makeup of the waste that we have under management, the problems that we're identifying through that exercise, and then the responses that we plan to implement. So I'll just take you through that. And I should say, I don't have any amazing animations in mind, unfortunately. But before I get started, I thought it'd be useful just to give you the context around our ambition. So at Heathrow, we refreshed our sustainability strategy, connecting people and planet. And we've introduced, obviously, a goal around waste. And it's about avoiding material consumption and maximising reuse and recycling, with a quantifiable target around reducing total waste generated against the 2019 baseline. And that is challenging in the context of a growing airport with increasing passenger numbers. In terms of what the baseline year looks like, we've got about 24,000 tonnes under management at the moment. About 17,500 tonnes is from our terminal operations and our airside and landside offices. And then we've got about 6,500 tonnes, which is aircraft cabin cleaning waste. So not the catering waste, but the cleaning waste that we take on behalf of the airlines. Of all of that material, about 48.9% was recycled. So we know the sort of scale of the waste that we are managing. And now we're going to talk a bit about what that material is actually made up of from the recent composition analysis we've completed. So we can see that this analysis, which was targeting 20 compactors across airside and landside locations to get a representative data set on our materials, has identified that about 40% is paper and cardboard. So that's a significant chunk of material there, which is paper and cardboard. And then about 19% is plastics. 15% is liquid drinks, which was surprising. That's quite a significant piece of the pie there. And then 14% food waste, and then with remaining sort of smaller amounts for glass, metal, and potentially hazardous, by the way. And I suppose when you look at that material, the composition analysis has pointed out to us that about 33% of materials managed as general waste is actually potentially recyclable through our contract. So that's a really big opportunity for us there. And another interesting insight was that out of the dry mix recycling, which is all our recycling content that goes off the airport, about 50% of that is not the targeted recyclable material that we would look to capture through that stream. So we know we've got some significant challenges around contamination. Now, contamination in both the dry mix recycling and the general waste was mostly food waste and liquid drinks. So about 16% in general waste and 10% in dry mix recycling for food waste, and about 15% liquid waste in our general waste, and 70% in our recycling. But overall, we know that we've got about 24% material that we could add to our existing recycling performance. And to put that in perspective, in 2024, we recycled about 49%. So there's a real sort of opportunity there for us to improve performance. So we've spoken about the amount of waste, the composition of that waste, and now I wanted just to talk through the potential opportunities or the potential actions that we could take to address some of those issues. So if we look at liquid drinks, we know 15% of that material. We know that if we strip that out of our material, we perhaps implemented solutions like bottle piercers before it got to our waste contract, we could reduce our tonnage and reduce the cost for the management. So we wouldn't be paying as much for our waste management services. For food waste, we know that if we enhance food waste segregation and we reduce contamination, we're actually improving the quality of the materials that are going off-site, but we're also increasing recycling because some of our food waste is sent off for recycling. With plastics, obviously, a lot of the plastic material we have in our general waste is actually potentially recyclable content. So we could, if we enhance segregation, we can drive up recycling. Paper and card, we know that we've got 40% of our material, which could definitely which we could avoid by implementing sort of reusable delivery solutions to the airport, and potentially look at options to reduce secondary packaging that turns up at the retail outlets within the terminals. So there's a real opportunity there. In terms of eliminating single-use packaging, well, one of the big problem areas that we have, and I think this is consistent across most airports, is coffee cups. That's actually a photograph from the composition analysis in our general waste. So that is a real issue that I think all of us airports kind of share, and we're keen to improve in that space. And then in terms of other interventions that I think are definitely worth exploring, which relate to all of the above, are potential solutions around incentivizing waste reduction through like a pay-as-you-throw mechanism where retailers and concessionaires are actually paying for waste services based on the amount of waste that they're actually generating, as opposed to square meterage. And obviously, we need to enable our passengers and enable our concessionaires by improving the facilities that we offer at the airport in back-of-house bin rooms and also in passenger-facing areas throughout passenger-facing bins. And as I mentioned before, because of the high levels of contamination that we have in our general waste, we know that there's a significant opportunity there to increase recycling. So if we can somehow process the residual waste that's going off the airport and recover some of that recyclable content, then that's a really positive thing we should be looking to explore. So we've looked at the total tonnage, what that tonnage is made up of, and I just wanted to sort of share a few examples around some of the stuff that we've been looking at recently in terms of trials. So at the back end of last year, we implemented a food waste segregation trial, which is using a mini anaerobic digester in T5 to take food waste from our staff catering facilities within T5. And that's been really a really exciting project and a really great tool for engaging our people on. And I think over the last 4 to 6 weeks, we've processed about a ton of food waste through that facility. So it's going quite well. In terms of segregating at source, we trialed a smart bin solution, which was a more interactive bin for our passengers, where they would scan the products that they were going to dispose of, and the device would tell them what bin to put it in. And certainly in terms of engaging passengers and trying to incentivize the right behaviors with our passenger community, that was quite an interesting project, and we're sort of exploring next steps. In terms of paper and card, we have implemented a reusable coffee cup scheme within our headquarters to kind of sense check how effective this solution would be within the terminal operations and particularly the staff catering facilities in the terminals, with a longer term view to look at a potential passenger-facing solution as well. But that has been really, really great, that solution. We basically eliminated single-use coffee cups overnight through our Cafe Nero. And then looking at all waste streams, again, this is a trial of our a recent pay-as-you-throw solution led by our innovation team, which was essentially trying to capture data through barcoded bin bags and a weight and a set of scales to attribute the waste disposed of in the bin room to a particular outlet, which is not something we're currently doing. So definitely something we're keen to explore. And obviously, concessionaires, and you probably get this as well, are often interested to know how much waste they're actually generating. So if we can capture that data, we can share it with them. And so just in terms of conclusions, I suppose a composition analysis, I'm sure a lot of you have done something similar already, but a composition analysis can be a really great way to identify opportunities to enhance performance around sustainability. And like I said, this is the size of the prize, essentially. We know that we have potentially an extra 24% of recyclable content we can go after. There are potential opportunities to save costs and implement efficiencies. It can capture data to support business cases for other projects you might want to deliver through your composition analysis. Obviously, it sheds light on problematic materials that you've got within your waste stream and identifying compliance improvement opportunities, which Sarah touched on as well. And so in terms of next steps, yeah, we're very keen to complete that food waste trial, see what else we could do with that to maximise our opportunities in that space. Trial an additional pay-as-you-throw solution, look at getting that liquid waste out of our composition, expanding the reusable coffee cup scheme, and progress our thinking around a recovery of materials option for dealing with potentially recyclable material and residual waste. And then and progress our plans around our bin rooms and passenger-facing bins as well. But yeah, thanks so much for your time.
Just to show you that circular economy is one of our prior themes we are looking into our strategic or sustainable strategy, besides decarbonization and local environmental quality. First, I would like to start with the fact that in the Flemish region we have a lot of things to we are mandatory to do. So there is regulation on the material use. First of all, there is the obligation of selective demolition. We are obliged to recycle the listed materials. And we have to prove that by drawing up a demolition follow-up plan. We have to list all the materials that can be recycled and that are within the existing building. And we have to add the URAL codes, so the waste codes next to it. And we have to define the quantities, and we have to express it in tons or cubic meters. Besides that, we also have to provide a waste management plan on the demolition site. And now some insights of on our project we had. This is a picture of a deconstruction site at our cargo zone. We currently are demolishing a lot of buildings, old buildings, and try to build new ones. And at this site, we were able to recover the entire steel structure of the building, of the warehouse. And we didn't have a problem of stored at those materials because we could bring it directly to the new site where a company will rebuild it on their site. So that's a company that aims to build a circular building based on 70% of reused materials. A second one is the recovery of a roof liner. It was renewed 10 years ago, the roof liner, but we decided to demolish the building, and the manufacturer of the roof liner actually heard of it and contacted us and said, can I recover it and clean it and reuse it? And of course we said, you can. So they came and recovered it. Another example is we call it urban mining of building 32. Actually, it was planned to demolish, but the demolition is set on hold. So we have a lot of time to recover all interesting materials. One of it is the recovery of the ceiling tiles. We work together with Akoestiekfabriek. It's a circular economy enterprise, and they repurpose the ceiling tiles into acoustic insulation panels. You see here, it's in a school, I think, in Brussels. Another example of the same building also recovered the wall panels, and it will be reused in the same building as the one that recovered the steel structure. We also wanted to recover the floor tiles, but actually they were too dirty and a bit old-fashioned that they couldn't be reused. So based on all the experience we had from those projects, we adjusted our demolition procurement process actually. So we added, on top of the fact that we had that we have the obligation to set up a demolition follow-up plan, we add the requirement towards the contractor to provide a reuse and inventory. So not only focus on materials to reuse, but also see all the materials that can be reused on top of that. And to make that possible, we also added time for internal reuse of the materials. So we foresee site visits with the technical departments to capture the reuse potential of the technical assets. Then we organize giveaway days in the case that there is still some old furniture in the building. Afterwards, we foresee time for external parties like Acoustic Fabric or others to recover other materials before we launch actually the demolition tender. But we add now specific requirements on the reuse of specific materials before we start the demolition. Some challenges is the fact that when we recover materials, we have to foresee some location to store it, sort of a circular hub for our internal department, also for airport partners or surrounding communities. And it's difficult to match demand and supply. It looks a bit fluently, but in a certain way it will become difficult to match demand and supply. So now we're building a network of external partners, and they contact us. Actually, they recently they contacted us as they heard we are planning to demolish another building, and they want to recover materials for a sort of a art festival in a surrounding community. So it works. We don't only focus on demolish. We don't just demolish buildings at Brussels. We also build new ones. So by default, we implement circularity. We foresee compact design. We design for this assembly. We make them flexible, easy to demountable. We reuse the crushed concrete in the floor slab of the new building. We use renewable materials, like we see the wooden roof trusses or something. I don't know the word in English. And we, in the building, the B model, we integrate the material passports of the material used in it. So to summarize an overview of obstacles and challenges we see, there's a lot of logistical challenges on the collection and the storage of the materials. So we have to provide a location for the intermediate storage pending the reuse of the materials. And yeah, recovery of materials takes a lot of time, so you have to account for that in the planning and the timing of projects. And actually there's, at the current state, there is a lack of standards, so it's not always sure. There's some uncertainty on the quality of materials, so colleagues prefer to buy new one instead of reuse existing ones. Voilà. It was in that